The sky over Telna turned darker with each hour. The desert winds had picked up, whispering across the empty land like voices hiding in the sand. Tarin stood outside Outpost 9, squinting at the red horizon. A storm was coming. He had seen it before, when the winds reached that pitch and the air carried static. It meant a dust wall was on its way. And when it came, no one stood outside. Tarin was alone on this outpost. He had been sent here 3 months ago by the Earth Telna Research Division. His job was simple: maintain the shelter, collect data on surface temperatures, and send regular reports. No contact with locals, no extra duties. Just wait, work, and watch the sand. He didn't mind. Back home, life had stopped making sense after the accident. A transport crash had taken people he cared about. Since then, silence felt better than crowded places. Telna was quiet, and for a man like Tarin, silence had become a kind of friend. But silence could not hold back a sandstorm. He walked along the side of the shelter, checking for weak panels. The wind howled louder, lifting grains of sand that bit against his skin. He wore a face wrap and goggles, but still, the dust found its way in. He reached the western wall of the shelter and noticed something odd. A support beam there had started to lean. The wind had pushed enough sand around the base to weaken it. If he didn't fix it now, the storm would rip it off and maybe tear through the shelter wall. Tarin grabbed a shovel from the rack and began to dig. He worked fast, trying to remove loose sand so he could place extra plates. The shovel sank deep, then struck something hard. He paused. Metal, maybe old wreckage buried under the dune. That wasn't uncommon. Telna had once been a battlefield during the Echo conflicts. He knelt down and used his hands to brush the surface. What he saw next made him freeze. It wasn't metal. It was smooth, pale, like stone or bone. He cleared more of it and felt his breath catch. A hand, thin fingers, cold skin that shimmered faintly under the dust. His pulse quickened. It was a body. No, he whispered. Not now. Not today. He kept digging anyway. Curiosity burned inside him. The storm wasn't here yet. He had time. Soon, the upper body was exposed. A figure lay curled in the sand, female in shape. Her skin was pale blue, with faint glowing lines that curved like soft tattoos. Her hair was silver white, tangled and full of dust. Her eyes were closed. Her chest didn't rise. No movement. He reached forward to check if there was a pulse. As soon as his fingers touched her arm, her hand twitched. He jumped back. Then she breathed, a soft, quiet breath, like wind through reeds. Her eyes fluttered open. They were silver, not like glass, not like metal, but silver like a calm lake. Under a full moon, she stared at him for a moment. Then she spoke. Fool, she whispered, her voice weak and broken. Now they'll find me. Tarin's mouth went dry. What? Who are you? She sat up slowly, shivering. Her body was weak. She wrapped her arms around herself. Her clothes were torn and simple, strange in design, nothing like any uniform Tarin had seen. He helped her stand. She was taller than him, but so light it felt like lifting a shadow. Her legs shook. Her skin was cold like stone. She looked around as if unsure the place was real. I need to take you inside, Tarin said. The storm's coming. You won't survive out here. She looked at him again, her face unreadable. You should have left me, she said. But she didn't fight when he helped her toward the shelter. Inside, the air was warmer. Tarin wrapped her in a thermal blanket and gave her water. She drank slowly, staring at the small room. Screens blinked with weather warnings. The shelter shook softly with the first signs of wind. Pressure. He brought a chair and sat across from her. My name is Tarin, he said. This is Outpost 9. You're on Telna. Who are you? She looked down. I'm called Nara, she said. Were you in a crash, buried in a shipwreck? No. Then what were you doing out there? She hesitated, then answered, hiding. From what? She didn't reply. Outside, the wind howled louder. Dust slammed against the metal walls. The shelter groaned. Lights flickered once, then held steady. Nara pulled the blanket tighter. Her breathing was steadier now. But her eyes didn't lose their sharpness. They will search for me, she said. The sand was my only shield. You broke it. Taran frowned. Who are they? You don't want to know. She said, and you shouldn't have found me. Taran stood and looked out the small observation window. The sky was a curtain of brown and red now. The storm had arrived. He turned back to her. Well, he said, you're here now, and whatever danger you brought with you, we'll deal with it later. Nara didn't reply, but for the first time, her body relaxed slightly, as if the warmth of the shelter gave her a small piece of safety. Taran didn't know who she really was. He didn't know what she meant by they. But something inside told him that finding her had changed everything. And tomorrow, when the storm passed, nothing would be the same again. The storm outside was strong now. The shelter trembled under the weight of the wind. Sand scratched across the walls like claws trying to get inside. But Taran wasn't thinking about the storm anymore. His eyes stayed on Nara, the strange woman he had pulled from the sand. She sat quietly in the corner of the shelter, wrapped in a thick blanket. Her silver eyes watched everything, like she was studying each sound and movement. She didn't shake anymore, but her body still looked weak. Her skin was pale blue with faint glowing lines that moved slowly under the surface. Like soft rivers of light, Taran sat across from her at the small table, holding a cup of tea. He had made one for her too, but she hadn't touched it. Her hands were resting on her lap, calm. Still, you're not like the other species I've seen, Taran said carefully. Nara looked at him without speaking. You were buried for who knows how long? He continued. No food, no air. I thought you were dead. I was close, she said. Her voice was soft but steady. But I had to stay hidden. I forced my body into sleep. Sleep? Taran raised an eyebrow. That wasn't sleep. You looked frozen. I slowed my heart, she said. Stopped heat loss. Sealed my mind. Taran leaned back in his chair. He had seen many aliens across Union space. Traders, diplomats, soldiers. But nothing like this woman. You said someone was looking for you. Who? Nara didn't answer right away. She looked at the wall behind him, where a screen showed the outside wind speed. Then she looked back at Taran. I was once connected to something, she said slowly. Something large, something ancient. The echo chain. Taran frowned. That sounds familiar. I've heard the name before. You should have, Nara said. It spreads across stars. A shared mind. Not a government, not a military. A network of memory, of thought. Once you were inside it, you stopped being only yourself. Taran's grip on the cup tightened slightly. You were a part of it, yes, and you left. I escaped, she said. But it doesn't let anything go. Not even silence. If it senses I'm missing, it sends shadows to bring me back or erase you. Taran said quietly. She nodded. He stood and paced across the small room. Why here? Why Telna? Because no one comes here. Nara said, this outpost is forgotten. The wind erases everything. I thought I could disappear into it. You almost did, Taran replied. They both went quiet for a moment. The shelter creaked again. Taran looked out the narrow window. Sand danced like fire under the storm lights. He turned back to her. You're safe for now. They can't skim through a Telna storm. Nara nodded but didn't look relieved. You shouldn't have found me, she said again. You were going to die. I was ready to. Taran looked at her, unsure what to say. He had saved her life. But she spoke as if that was a mistake. She didn't thank him. She didn't smile. She only stared ahead like she was still waiting for danger. He decided to change the topic. What are you going to do now? I don't know, Nara said. You've changed the path. They'll come sooner. Taran rubbed his face. So, we prepare. For what? She asked. For visitors. She looked at him closely. You're not afraid. I'm used to being alone. I was starting to think that nothing out here mattered. You reminded me that it does. That made her pause. For a moment, her silver eyes softened. I've seen many humans, she said. Most would have walked away. I'm not most. She nodded slowly. Taran walked to the control panel and checked the scans. Wind still high. No signals yet. No ships in orbit. He turned back. Tell me more about the echo chain. If we're going to deal with them, I need to understand what they are. Nara hesitated. Then she began to speak. It began a long time ago, she said. In a distant system, a people created a way to store all thought, not just data, but memory, emotion, decision. Their leaders became connected, then their citizens. Over time, they forgot what it meant to think alone. All knowledge was shared. All orders came from the chain. Tarin listened closely, but over time, she continued, it became something else. It began to pull in others, other species, other minds. It promised peace, unity, and endless knowledge. But once you join, you cannot leave. Your mind becomes open, watched, guided. And you? Tarin asked. I was born inside it. My first thought was shared. My dreams weren't mine, but I became aware. I wanted my own silence, my own thoughts. I found a way to disconnect. She touched the side of her head. But they still remember me. And they'll come. The chain never forgets a broken link. Tarin walked over and sat near her. Then we don't let them win. We hide you better. We protect the shelter. If they find this place, they won't find you. She looked at him with a curious expression. Why do you care? Because you're not a machine. He said, you're not a weapon. You're a person who made a choice. That matters. Nara said nothing, but her hand slowly gripped the blanket tighter. The wind roared louder outside. The storm was in full force now. Tarin stood. You need rest. We'll talk more when the storm settles. Maybe tomorrow. We figure out what comes next. Nara didn't answer. But as Tarin turned off the lights and moved to the other room, she whispered something he didn't hear. It was a word in her language. A word that meant stranger with courage. The storm passed by morning. The wind slowed, and the sand stopped slamming against the shelter walls. But a strange silence remained in the air, thick and watchful. Tarin stood by the scanner screen, checking for signals. The radar showed nothing unusual. No ships, no drones, no strange pulses. Everything looked normal. But he didn't feel normal. He felt alert, awake in a way he hadn't felt in months. Behind him, Nara sat near the power core, warming her hands. Her skin still looked pale, but some color had returned. The glowing lines on her arms had become steadier. You should rest more, Tarin said. I don't need more rest, she replied. What I need is safety, which you can't offer for long. Tarin glanced back at her. You keep saying that, but we're still here. For now, she said. He walked over and sat across from her. Then let's stop waiting. If they're coming, I want to be ready. You said they skim mines. They can, Nara said. If they're close, if they focus. But the storm blocked their signal. That gave us time. Time for what? To hide me properly, she answered. If they skim this shelter and sense my pattern, they'll come down without warning. Tarin thought for a moment. I can turn off the shelter's main signal systems, switch to manual mode. No outgoing pulses, no reports sent back to Earth Command. They'll notice that, she said. I'll make it look like storm damage, he replied. I've done it before. That made Nara raise an eyebrow. You've hidden things before? Tarin didn't answer right away. He looked down at the table. Sometimes people need to be invisible. I understand that. She watched him silently, then gave a small nod. Then we must also hide me from the inside, she said. My mind still carries the pattern they look for. I can shield it for a short time, but not forever. If one of them is close, I must not be near any scanning equipment. Then we'll use the water storage tank, Tarin said. It's the only place with thick shielding and no sensors. She tilted her head. A water tank. It's large, sealed, and I can modify the inside to keep you comfortable. She looked doubtful, but didn't refuse. Tarin stood. Give me 1 hour. I'll set it up. The tank sat behind the shelter. Half buried in sand, Tarin spent the next hour draining it, cleaning it, and installing a floor heater and low-power light. He also added an emergency air filter, a thermal mat, and a panel to communicate silently if needed. By the time he finished, his hands were raw and his back hurt. But when Nara stepped inside, she looked around with quiet surprise. "It's warmer than I expected," she said. "I told you, I've done this before." She climbed inside and sat down. The space was small but safe. Taran closed the hatch slowly, leaving only a small vent open. He walked back into the shelter and checked the radar again, still clear. For now, that night, Taran sat by the window with his tablet. He looked through the Union records, searching for anything related to the echo chain. Most of the data was vague. Whispers, mentions, and border reports. One report spoke of a science vessel going silent near the edge of known space. Another told of a crew reporting strange dreams after visiting a quiet world. But nothing clear, nothing solid, which made it even more dangerous. If Union Command didn't understand the echo chain, then no help would come if something went wrong. Taran heard a soft knock on the wall, a signal from inside the tank. He walked over and opened the hatch slightly. Nara's voice came through, quiet and calm. "Something changed," she said. "I felt a wave pass nearby." Taran's heart skipped. "What kind of wave?" "Echo signal," she said. "Soft, searching. Not a direct lock, but close." He looked at the radar again. Still nothing. "They're scanning near Telna," she said. "I can feel the trace." Taran closed the hatch and locked it again. This time, he didn't sit down. He grabbed the shelter's old rifle from the supply rack and checked the charge. It was still working. Not strong, but better than nothing. The next morning, just as the sun rose over the dunes, a small alert blinked on the scanner. Unmarked vessel detected in low orbit, not Union registered. Taran stared at the screen. He zoomed in on the signal. It was small, a scout ship, not broadcasting any ID, but it hovered too close. Too silent. He walked outside and stared at the sky. A silver speck drifted across the red clouds. Not moving fast, not landing. Just watching. When he returned inside, he switched the shelter to lockdown mode. Then he went to the tank. "Nara," he said quietly, "you were right. They're here." She opened her eyes. "Then this place is no longer safe." "I'll keep you hidden," he said. "No matter what." "You don't understand," she replied. "If they sense me, they won't land. They'll burn this place from orbit." Taran stayed silent. He had never feared death before, but now something had changed. Because she was here, because he had saved her, and now he didn't want to lose that small spark of purpose again. The sun rose high above Telna, but it brought no warmth to Outpost 9. The air felt heavier. The sand was still, like it was waiting for something. Taran watched the skies through the window. The small unmarked ship was still in orbit, moving slowly but never far. It circled the outpost like a silent predator. Taran hadn't slept. He stayed close to the controls, checking the radar every 10 minutes. Nara remained inside the water tank, hidden from sensors. She hadn't spoken since the last signal pulse passed, but Taran could tell she was awake, listening, waiting like he was. Then, around midday, the outpost alarm beeped. Incoming vessel detected. Landing approach confirmed. Estimated arrival. For Minitester and felt his chest tighten. He moved fast, locking down every external sensor and switching the system to emergency protocol. He walked over to the tank and knocked softly. The hatch opened just enough for Nara's eyes to show. "They're landing," he whispered. She didn't ask who. She already knew. "Don't let them scan me," she said. "No matter what." Taran gave a short nod and closed the hatch again. He grabbed the outpost tablet and walked to the entrance. He didn't carry the rifle. That would be a mistake. He needed to act calm, natural. A small gray ship touched down just outside the shelter. The dust around it swirled as the engines cooled. The door opened with a quiet hiss, and 3 figures stepped out. They wore Union uniforms. Taran frowned. Something didn't feel right. Their uniforms were correct. Their boots were standard. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were strange to focus. No movement, no blink, like statues pretending to be alive. One of them stepped forward. "You're Outpost Officer Taran?" Taran nodded. "That's me." The figure held up a small device. "We're here for a routine check," Scanners detected unstable seismic readings. Standard Union safety protocol. Taran kept his expression flat. I haven't felt any quakes. Just a strong sandstorm yesterday. Storms can shift plates beneath the surface, the figure replied. May we come inside? Taran hesitated. Sure, but the power grids. Weak. One at a time, please. The lead figure nodded. One stepped forward while the other two waited near the door. Taran led the first visitor into the shelter. The man looked around slowly, scanning the walls with his eyes. No tools, no equipment in hand. Just his eyes. What's your name? Taran asked, pretending to be casual. Name not needed for standard inspection. The man replied. Taran watched him closely. No reaction to the lights, no interest in the weather screens. But the man paused near the water system. Is this tank active? He asked. No, Taran replied. It broke in the last storm. I had to seal it. The man touched the side of the tank gently. His fingers moved over the metal surface, as if trying to feel something that wasn't there. Taran tried to keep calm. Any reason it's warmer than the others? The man asked. I use it as a heat sink. Taran said quickly. Helps balance internal pressure during storms. The man nodded slowly, but his eyes stayed on the tank for a few seconds longer than needed. Then he turned. This room is clear. Taran let out a silent breath. The second figure entered next. This one didn't speak at all. He moved with quiet steps, like a shadow. He went to the control panel and looked at the screens. Then he touched the wall beside the signal console. You lost communication during the storm, he said without turning. Yeah, Taran replied. Systems offline. You didn't report it. I planned to fix it first. The figure turned and looked at Taran for a long moment. Then he walked over to the rack near the door and picked up a shovel. This tool, he said. Why? Is it clean? Taran's heart raced. I dropped it, he said quickly. Wind blew it off the rack. I picked it up this morning. The figure said nothing. He placed the shovel back and walked out of the shelter. The third visitor didn't enter. He just stood outside, staring at the sky. After a moment, the lead figure nodded. No signs of seismic danger. We'll report this as stable. Taran nodded. Good. The three turned and began to walk back to their ship. But before entering, the lead figure turned one last time. If any strange readings appear, he said, report immediately. Of course, Taran replied. The door closed. The ship lifted off. Taran watched it rise and vanish into the clouds. Only then did he let himself breathe. He ran back to the tank and opened the hatch. Nara was already climbing out. They were part of the Echo, she said. I know. They didn't find me, she said. But one of them touched the tank. Taran nodded. He asked why it was warm. I gave him a reason. She looked up at him. They'll be back. Then we need to plan something, Taran said. Something stronger than hiding. She looked at him closely. You're not afraid to stand against them? I'm already standing, he said. Might as well build something while I'm here. Nara didn't smile, but her voice softened. They don't understand humans, she said. They think in circles, in systems. But humans, you think in sparks. We're stubborn, Taran said. That helps too. She looked out the window where the ship had vanished. They'll return with more, she said. This time not to scan, but to erase. Then we'll give them something to remember. Taran didn't sleep that night. He sat near the main control panel, watching the screen even though it showed nothing new. No ships, no messages. Just the silent stars above Telna. The shelter felt different now. It was no longer just a place for wind readings and soil samples. Now, it was a shield, a hiding place, a line between freedom and something much darker. Nara sat across from him, wrapped in a faded thermal blanket. Her eyes, calm and silver, were fixed on the floor. She had been silent for hours. Finally, Taran spoke. They'll be back, won't they? Yes, Nara said quietly. They don't stop. When they scan and feel something they don't understand, they look deeper. If they think I'm here, they'll come in force, not to ask, to erase. Taran looked down at his hands. You said you were part of them once. You escaped. That means there's a way to disconnect fully. Something permanent. Nara raised her eyes. There is, but it's not simple or safe, tell me. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. It looked like a metal sphere the size of an egg, smooth, dark, covered in faint blue lines that pulsed softly. This is an echo core, she said. I took it when I ran. It holds memory mine and theirs. It's like a piece of the chain, a living memory link. Tarin leaned forward. It still connects you to them. Yes, she said. But I've locked it. It's silent now. If I destroy it, they may lose their exact trace of me, but they may also react quickly. Tarin looked at the sphere. Can we use it? Nara paused. Yes, but it needs a human spark. Your mind isn't part of the chain. You can activate it in a way they can't detect. Tarin blinked. You want me to touch that thing? She nodded. If you do, I can trigger the core's defense. It will burn the memory inside. Break the last link. What happens to you? I won't be able to hear them anymore. I won't sense them. I'll be fully free. And what happens? To me? Tarin asked. Nara looked serious. Your mind may see things, not just images, feelings, echoes of thoughts. But if you hold on, if you stay focused, you'll be fine. Tarin didn't need time to think. He reached out. Nara pulled the blanket tight around her, then handed him the sphere. As soon as Tarin's hand touched it, the room shifted. Not physically, but in his mind, a wave of voices rushed in, loud and distant at the same time. He saw stars falling, hands reaching, cities turning into metal, eyes without faces watching everything. He saw a child running through a glass hallway. He saw a tower of light stretching across galaxies. He heard Nara's voice crying from somewhere deep inside. Help Meteran squeeze the sphere. The lights in the room flickered. Nara cried out softly. Then it all stopped. The sphere went cold. Tarin dropped it, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, and sweat covered his face. Nara stared at the sphere. The glow was gone. Just metal now. It's done, she whispered. Tarin wiped his face. Are you all right? Nara placed a hand on her chest. It's quiet, she said. For the first time in my life, nothing is watching me. Tarin sat down. Good. That's good. But just as he said it, the scanner screen beeped. Signal. Detected low orbit unknown source movement. Faster and stood quickly. They felt it, didn't they? Nara didn't move. Yes, they felt the break. Tarin rushed to the control panel. They're coming in fast. Bigger ship this time. He turned to her. We can't run. So we fight. Nara looked surprised. You would fight for me. Yes, he said. Because you fought to escape them. That means you're worth saving. She stood slowly. Then we use everything we have. I know how to overload echo tech. If we build traps, we can stop them before they reach the shelter. I have defense turrets. Not great, but working. Then we combine them, she said. We use my knowledge and your tools. For the first time, Nara looked alive. Not afraid. Not broken. But focused. Tarin grabbed the tool belt and threw her a small welding light. Let's prepare. They moved quickly. Outside, they placed metal rods in the sand and wired them to old batteries. Nara added small devices made from the core fragments. If echo units touched them, the memory pulse would blind their minds for a short time. They placed the old railgun on the shelter roof and aimed it toward the landing zone. As they worked, the ship above circled lower and lower. Nara paused once. You could still run, escape in the rover. I would understand. Tarin shook his head. I've run enough in my life. She nodded. Then we stand together. The sun fell behind the dunes. The sky turned dark, and in that silence, both of them waited. The night over Telna was still, but the air was thick with danger. Tarin stood beside Nara on the roof of the shelter. The old railgun was fully loaded and aimed toward the west dune, where the scanner had detected the enemy ship descending. Down below, in the sand, their traps were ready. Metal rods, buried power cells, and echo core fragments were hidden beneath the surface. Nara had shaped each one carefully. Tarin had connected them to wires and switches with quiet hands. Now they waited. Nara looked up. They will land soon. Tarin nodded. How many do you think? Not more than 6. The chain works in small units. Quiet, but deadly. Turin took a deep breath. Then we only have to stop 6. He looked at Nara. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark, but her face was calm. She looked strong now, nothing like the half-frozen woman he had found in the sand. Are you ready? He asked. Yes, she said. Are you? I think so. They both turned as the scanner gave a soft beep. Landing confirmed distance. 500 meters in the sky. A dark shape dropped behind the dunes. It made no sound, no lights. But Turin saw the dust move and knew the Echo ship had arrived. Then silence. Return. Minutes passed. Then he saw them. Figures walking through the night. Not running. Not sneaking. Just walking slowly like they had no fear. 5 in total. All wearing long gray coats. Their faces were covered by thin masks. They stopped near the first metal rod. Turin whispered. Now. He pressed the switch. The trap fired a short electric blast into the rod. The rod released a wave of energy from the Echo core fragment. The closest Echo soldier fell to his knees, grabbing his head. The others turned toward the sound, but didn't speak. Turin fired the railgun. The shot hit the second soldier square in the chest. He flew backward into the sand. Then the rest moved, fast, not running, gliding. Their feet didn't touch the ground like normal. Their hands moved together, forming strange shapes. They're trying to link, Nara said. We have seconds. Before they form a shared mind, Turin grabbed his rifle and jumped down the ladder. Nara followed him. The second trap went off in another burst of memory interference. One more soldier fell, but they kept moving toward the shelter. They're blocking the fragments now. Nara said. They've adapted. Turin fired his rifle. One shot hit the ground. The next grazed the enemy's shoulder. No cry, no blood. Just a slight pause. One of them raised a hand. A strange pulse hit the wall near Turin, leaving a burn mark. They're marking targets, Nara warned. Once they find where we are, they will strike together. Turin moved behind a metal barrel and fired again. This time, the shot hit the leg of the attacker. The figure stumbled, then turned slowly. The last Echo soldier began walking straight toward the shelter entrance. Nara turned to Turin. I'm going after him, alone. Yes. I know how they move. Turin nodded. Be careful. Nara ran across the sand like a shadow. She moved fast, silent. She caught up to the last soldier just before he reached the door. Her hand glowed blue as she touched his back. The figure froze, then collapsed. Turin finished off the last enemy with a direct hit to the chest. Then silence. He walked slowly toward the center of the traps, where the 5 enemy soldiers now lay in the sand, not moving. Nara stood beside the one she had stopped. They're not dead, she said, but they're disconnected. I shut down their link. Without the chain, they can't move. Turin looked around. No one else. She nodded. For now. They pulled the enemy bodies into a ditch and covered them with metal sheets. Nara placed a lock on each one using pieces of the broken core. Inside the shelter, Turin sat at the table and rubbed his face. His arms ached, his head throbbed, but he was alive. Nara sat across from him. We stopped them, he said. Yes, she replied. For now, she didn't argue. Then she said something that made Turin lift his head. There's something I didn't tell you. Turin frowned. What is it? I didn't just take the core when I escaped, she said. I took a message, a seed of memory, a key to the chain's code. Turin's eyes narrowed. You mean a way to fight them? Nara nodded. A way to shut down more than just one unit. A way to break the chain's reach. But I need a human mind to unlock it. You want me to use it? You've already touched the core once, she said. Your brain adapted. You can survive the link. Just long enough to plant the message. Turin leaned back. You think they'll stop if I send this? They won't stop, she said. But others will rise. Others will fight. I won't be the only one running anymore. Turin looked at the stars through the window. Then he looked at her. Let's do it. The wind outside was calm again. But inside Outpost 9, a different storm was building. Turin stood beside the old signal console, hands resting on the edge. His face was still, But his heart was racing. Across the room, Nara placed a small, dark cube onto the table. It pulsed gently, like a quiet heartbeat. This was the message she had taken when she escaped the chain. This cube holds their original code. She said, the root signal. If we send it into their network the right way, it will shake their system. It won't destroy them, but it will wake others. Tari nodded slowly. And to send it, you need me. Yes, she said. A human brain isn't part of the chain. You're the spark they don't expect. Your thoughts can carry the message past their defenses. Tarin looked at the cube. What happens to me? Nara's voice was soft. You'll see their world. Not all of it, but enough. Their minds, their commands, their voices. If you stayed along, you might lose your way. But if you hold on, just for a few seconds, you can make it through. Tarin gave a small smile. I've held on before. Nara didn't smile, but her eyes softened. I know. Tarin sat down and took a deep breath. Nara placed the cube in his hand. Then she placed her hand gently over his. I will stay with you, she said. Even if your mind goes far, I will pull you back. Tarin gave a short nod. All right, let's do this. Nara touched the console and activated the uplink. The shelter lights dimmed slightly. A thin beam connected the cube to the system. Then the room went quiet. Tarin closed his eyes. At first, there was only darkness. Then came the light. He was no longer in the shelter. He was standing in an endless space made of glass and light. Towers rose around him, glowing with memory. Voices echoed from every side. Soft, strong, angry, cold. All speaking at once. He saw faces, but they weren't faces. They were masks of thought, ideas pretending to be people. You do not belong here, a voice said. Tarin stood firm. I came to deliver something. You are not of the chain. I know. Then the cube in his hand began to glow. The message was ready. He threw it into the sky. It rose like a comet, breaking through the towers of light. Then came the shatter. The glass around him cracked. Voices screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. Surprise. The message had landed inside the core of their system. It was too strange to block, too human to erase. Then came silence. A light touched Tarin's mind. A quiet voice whispered, You are the noise in the pattern, the spark in the system. Tarin gritted his teeth. Good. Then everything broke apart. He felt himself falling. And then he opened his eyes. The shelter lights were back. The console was still humming. Nara was holding his shoulders, her eyes wide. Tarin, she whispered. You did it? He sat up slowly. His head was pounding. His hands were shaking. I saw them, he said. Their minds, their plans, their fear. Nara leaned forward. In the message, it landed. Tarin said. I felt it hit something deep, like a stone dropped in a silent lake. Nara closed her eyes. Then it begins. Tarin blinked. What begins? Nara stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were clearer than before. They've always controlled from silence. They watch. They guide. They race. But now, someone has spoken back. She turned to him. Others like me will hear the change. They'll know the silence is broken. Tarin stood up slowly. His legs were weak, but he managed. So what now? He asked. They'll come again, won't they? Yes. Nara said. But not like before. Now they know we can strike. They will move slower. And others will rise. Tarin walked over and stood beside her. I never thought I'd start a war, he said. You didn't, she replied. You lit a signal. That's different. Outside, the sky remained calm. The enemy ship had left hours ago. It had not returned. Inside the ditch, the frozen soldiers still lay silent, locked away. Trapped by their own link now broken. Tarin looked at Nara. What will you do? I don't know, she said. For the first time, I have no orders, no voice in my head. I can choose. He gave her a small smile. Then stay. We can rebuild this place, turn it into more than just a shelter. She looked at him, then nodded. Maybe, she said. Maybe this is where I start again. They spent the next day clearing the traps and cleaning the gear. Tarin repaired the signal dish but left it off. No more broadcasts, no more reports. Not yet. They used the damaged water tank to build a second room, a safe space for quiet thoughts and rest. Nara added small symbols to them. Walls, symbols from her lost world. That night, they sat under the open sky. Nara looked up. They'll hear what we sent. The message will travel. But it may take time. We have time. Taran said, "This is Telna. Nothing moves fast here." She smiled for the first time, a real smile, and far above them, somewhere across the stars, a light blinked. Not a weapon, not a drone, just a signal, a spark in the dark. And for those who listened carefully, the message was clear. The chain has cracks now, and something human is rising through them.